Why was she still holding it? The Purple Heart medal lay cold and heavy in her palm, its ribbons still creased from the funeral home's careful fold. Sarah Chun stood in the doorway of the Army recruitment office, her cardigan clinging to her frame. Like it knew this wasn't where she belonged. Her library name tag-crooked. Faded still read Sarah C., reference specialist. But that version of her was already gone. The small brass bell above the door chimed, unervingly cheerful. It didn't belong in this place. Neither, it seemed, did she. Sergeant Rodriguez barely looked up from his desk at first. Another college type, maybe looking for a GI Bill pamphlet. Not the kind of person who made his pulse quicken until he saw her walk toward him. Barely 5'2", wire-framed glasses slipping down her nose, a cardigan instead of camo. She clutched her worn purse to her chest like it was armor. "Can I help you, miss?" he asked, already reaching for the brochures, maybe intelligence or admin. "I want to enlist," she said softly. There was a pause. "The kind that changes everything." Rodriguez blinked, then smiled politely. "Well, we've got great opportunities for someone with your background. What's your education?" Sarah raised her chin slightly. "Master's in library science, bachelor's in literature." "Perfect. We could put you in communications or intel, maybe logistics." But then she did it. She dropped the Purple Heart onto his desk with a sharp crack. It spun twice before settling. The room fell silent. "My brother died," she said flatly, because his spotter missed the shot at 800 yards. Rodriguez stared at the medal behind him. Staff Sergeant Williams slowly closed his laptop. Corporal Jackson forgot his sandwich. "I want sniper training," Sarah said, as if she were asking for an overdue book. Jackson scoffed, coughed to cover it. Rodriguez hesitated. "Sniper school is extremely demanding, physical, mental. The washout rate is, I know." She cut in, 85%, average candidate, male, 20 to 30, prior military experience. "I'm 22, no experience, but I score expert." She reached into her purse, pulled out a faded photo. A young girl, her holding a rifle almost taller than she was, standing next to an older Asian man in weathered fatigues. "My grandfather taught me to shoot when I was 8. By 12, I could hit a dime. At 200 yards, by 16. He said my shots were impossible, but that gifts," she paused, "were meant to stay hidden until needed." Rodriguez studied the photo, the man's posture, the look in his eyes. Not just a grandfather. Something else military? "Special?" "Ma'am." Williams began. "Hunting squirrels in Oregon isn't combat." She didn't flinch. "Staff Sergeant David Chun, 2nd Battalion, 75th Ranger Regiment, here 3 weeks ago in Afghanistan." His spotter missed a threat. "At 847 yards, that sniper killed 3 Rangers." She laid down another paper. An after-action report, wind speed, angles, bullet drop. She had memorized it. "I've made that shot, in worse conditions, when I was 15. Now no one spoke. Jackson had stopped chewing. Williams was watching her closely. Rodriguez exhaled. "Even if that's true, the physical side alone." "I'll meet it," Sarah replied. "I'll exceed it." She picked up her purse, left the medal and the photo on the desk. "I'm here," she said. To prove the Army's best wasn't good enough. And then she turned to leave. "When do I start?" The Georgia sun hit like a hammer as Sarah stepped off the bus at Fort Benning. Her duffel bag looked absurdly oversized against her frame, as if someone had handed a child the wrong luggage. Around her, farm boys with arms like fence posts, college athletes, street-tough kids from Detroit and Dallas. And her holding a paperback copy of Advanced Ballistics like it was a Bible. Drill Sergeant Murphy emerged like a thunderclap, campaign hat tilted, voice slicing the air. "Listen up, maggots. You are now property of the United States Army." His eyes scanned the line, then stopped, like a predator seeing a wounded deer. Well, what do we have here?" He stalked toward her. Did someone's little sister get lost on the way to summer camp? Snickers rippled. Private Rodriguez, no relation, elbowed the guy next to him. $20, says she cries before lunch. Chun, Murphy barked, reading her name. You the librarian who thinks she's gonna be a sniper? Yes, Drill. Sergeant, Murphy circled her. You know what we call people like you in the Army, Chun? Sarah didn't answer. He didn't need her to. Dead weight. No. Drill Sergeant. Drop and give me 50. She hit the ground. 1-2. Her form was good. Better than expected. At 30, her arms began to shake. At 40, sweat soaked the Georgia concrete. At 47, her arms gave out. Pathetic, Murphy spat. Can't even finish 50, and you think you'll hold a rifle under fire? She stood, trembling but upright. I'll get stronger. You'll get gone. But she didn't. Not that day. Not the next. Murphy made her his project. Extra PT, extra chores, extra humiliation. During morning runs, she carried the Gideon. The company flagpole, despite being the slowest, it whipped in the wind as she lagged behind. Chun, you're holding up the whole damn company. In the chow hall, whispers followed her. She thinks she's gonna be a sniper. My little sister shoots better, Private Williams, the former football star, said it loud enough for her to hear. People are gonna die because of political correctness. Sarah didn't reply. She woke early, trained in the latrine before reveille. Used her duffel bag as a makeshift barbell. Her muscles adapted in silence. No one saw it coming. The test came at the rifle range. Time to separate the posers from the shooters. Murphy grinned. The range. 300 yards. Standard M16 F4S. 5 shots. Prone position. The betting pool on Sarah's failure had passed $200. Chun, Murphy called. Let's get this over with. She lay down, quiet, focused. The rifle felt familiar. Her first shot punched the center of the bullseye. Good shot, the range officer muttered. Beginner's luck, second shot, same hole, third, fourth, fifth. A one-hole group. The range. Fell silent. Pit, confirmed target 12. The tower called. 5 shots, all X-ring, group size. Under half an inch, Murphy's face tightened. Do it again, he barked. She reloaded. Fired 5 more. Rapid, clean. Pit, confirmed second string. Another silence, then. 5 X-ring, group size. A quarter inch, Murphy walked to. The spotting scope, stared, then turned to her. Where the hell did you learn to shoot like that? Sarah stood, slung her rifle with a grace that no one expected. My grandfather, she said. He called me his little ghost. No one bet against Sarah after that. But Murphy didn't back down, because deep down, he was afraid of what she might be, and afraid of what she might become. She moved like a shadow, no wasted movement, no sound. But tonight, Murphy wasn't watching how she moved. He was watching why. It was supposed to be a routine night navigation drill, just a patrol through the pine forest, a lesson in discipline. And silence. But for Sarah Chun, it became something else entirely. Private Williams stumbled behind her, snapping a twig loud enough to wake the dead. Chun, slow down, hissed Martinez, the acting squad leader. We're supposed to stay together, but... Sarah had already frozen, hand raised. Her body language said everything. Halt. Through the green haze of her night vision goggles, she saw it barely more than a flicker of movement behind a fallen log, 200 yards out. Most recruits would have missed it, but Sarah had been trained differently. Murphy's voice crackled over the radio. Alpha Squad, you've got hostiles in your sector, neutralize or fail. The others fumbled to spot the targets, confused, hesitant. Sarah? She whispered. 3 targets, 2 o'clock, 10 o'clock, and 11:30. Where? Martinez squinted. I don't see anything. She didn't wait. 3 shots, crisp and fast. The forest echoed with electronic beeps. Hits confirmed. The radio lit up. All targets neutralized. Who the hell saw them in this dark? Someone muttered. Murphy's voice came cold and fast. Chun. My office now. 20 minutes later, she stood in front of his desk, still in full gear, her rifle slung, night vision clipped to her helmet, eyes steady. Murphy stared at her like she was something unexplainable. He'd seen natural shooters before, but not like this. Sit, he ordered. I prefer to stand, drill sergeant. That wasn't a suggestion. She sat quietly, without fear. Murphy dropped the folder on the desk, thick, heavily marked. I'd been looking into you. Her stomach tightened. Sir? Your grandfather Kim Chun, Korean War, 1st Marine Division, Chosin Reservoir. Her face stayed calm, but her pulse didn't. His files mostly redacted. Murphy said, flipping pages. The kind of redacted that doesn't hide embarrassment. The kind that hides ghosts. He pulled out a clearer copy of the photo she'd left with the recruiter. I've got friends, he said. They remember him, a sniper, called him Ghostwalker. Said he made shots that defied physics. Said he disappeared behind enemy lines and came back with maps in his head. Sarah didn't move. What did? He teach you? Murphy asked, quietly now. Why you? The room felt smaller. She closed her eyes. She was 8 again. Cold Oregon woods. Her grandfather's voice in her ear. The rifle is not a weapon, little ghost. It's an extension of your will. Her voice broke the silence. He said, someday, someone I love would need me to be more than I appear to be. Murphy leaned back, processing. She looked older than 22 in that moment. Much older. He made me promise not to tell anyone. She added. He said the world wasn't ready. Murphy stared at her for a long time. Then he stood. Tomorrow night, he said. Just you and me. I want to see what he taught you. The next night, they didn't go to the normal range. Murphy led her to a remote corner of Fort Benning, beyond. The markers. No lights, no radar towers, just tall grass and silence. He handed her an M24. No night vision, he said. No rangefinder, just you. And whatever legacy you're carrying. Sarah lay prone. The rifle fit her like it remembered her. The night whispered in her ears wind speed, air pressure, the soft rustle of a fox. In the grass, target at 300 yards, she said. Behind the log. I don't see anything behind the ping. The steel rang like a bell. 500 left of the oak. Ping. Murphy didn't speak. 800. Top of the ridge. Ping. He watched her work, quiet, calculated, nothing dramatic, just surgical precision. After an hour, every hidden target, every single one had been hit, even the ones he'd forgotten about. Jesus, Murphy breathed. How many did you see? 12, she said. My grandfather taught me. The most dangerous enemy is the one you don't know is there. Murphy stared down at her. Something in his world had shifted tonight. Something old, something dangerous. Tomorrow, he said, we start your real training. She didn't know what real meant until the orders arrived. Scout Sniper School, Quantico, Marine Base. The paper was official, but the handwritten note at the bottom said more. Recommended by D.S. Murphy. Fort Benning. Do not disappoint us, Call Martinez. USMC Sarah read the words twice before they sank in. This wasn't just another course. This was a crucible. A week later, she sat on a bus with 23 other candidates. All male, all Marines, all staring at her like she didn't belong. Most of them had combat ribbons, deployments, kill counts. She had glasses and a library card history, and a secret no one could see. Staff Sergeant Rodriguez, 3 tours, hardened. I sat across from her, beside him. Jackson cracked jokes to cover his nerves. Bet she lasts a week, he muttered. Gunnery Sergeant Blake met them at the gate. The moment she saw him, she knew. This man is dangerous. Welcome to Scout Sniper School, he growled, where we separate the hunters from the hunted. He scanned the lineup, stopped on her. Some of you shouldn't be here at all, he said slowly. The words were meant for her. The first week felt like war, 20-hour days, punishing PT, mental stress. Sarah's body screamed, but her mind stayed still. While others relied on adrenaline, she relied on discipline. Pain is temporary, she heard her grandfather whisper, but quitting is forever. She moved in silence, listened when others complained, watched while others flexed. When the first shooting test came, she was ready. 5 targets, 5 ranges, each harder than the last. Rodriguez missed the last one by inches. Jackson cracked on the third. Thompson hadn't stopped talking about how women didn't belong, missed badly. Then it was her turn. She approached the line, calm, balanced. First shot, 300 yards, easy, bullseye. Second, 600, vegetation, wind-adjusted center hit. Third, 900 moving. She led it perfectly. Another hit. Fourth, 1,200, steep angle, complex ballistics. She didn't hesitate. Then came the fifth, the legend 1,500 yards. Beyond the edge of most sniper scopes, wind was shifting, swirling. She closed her eyes. You are not separate from the bullet, her grandfather had said. You are the path it takes. When she opened them again, nothing else existed. She fired. The impact came 3 seconds later. A soft clang like distant thunder. The pit called in. Target 5, dead center hit. Repeat. Dead center. Even Blake froze. He keyed his mic. Again. Are you sure? Confirmed. Never seen anything like it. Sarah cleared her rifle with the same calm she always had. Blake approached slowly. Where the hell did you learn to shoot like that? My grandfather, she said. Name? Kim Chun, but his friends call him Ghost Walker. Blake's face went pale. He'd heard that name. He'd seen that name. In stories, in rumors, in legends whispered through the halls of Quantico. And now, standing before him was the next chapter. What if the test wasn't about the shot? That thought haunted Sarah more than anything. She'd made the impossible shot. 5 times under pressure. In front of instructors and candidates who didn't even believe she belonged in the lineup. But now they weren't testing her aim. They were testing everything else. The second week of Scout Sniper School was where the masks came off. No more polite nods, no more cautious curiosity. Just pressure. Ruck march with 60-pound packs over rough terrain, 10 miles, then 12, then more. Her size worked against her shorter legs, smaller stride, lighter frame. The others pulled ahead. Every time. Chun's dragging us again. Thompson muttered loud enough to be heard. This is why women don't belong in combat units, Sarah. Said nothing. Pain carved its messages into her muscles. Her feet bled. Her back ached. But she kept going. She heard her grandfather's voice in every agonizing step. The body breaks. The will decides what comes next. At night, she collapsed into her cot and stared at the ceiling. She didn't cry. She didn't complain. She calculated, adjusted, prepared, because the next test wouldn't be about endurance. It would be about the mind. Ballistics class was where Sarah turned heads again. While others struggled with calculations, wind drift, temperature drop, humidity resistance, Sarah answered faster than the instructors could input values into their laptops. Chun said, Master Sergeant Torres during one class, you're up. 308 round, 1,200 yards, 15 miles per hour crosswind, 85 degrees, 60% humidity. What's the shot? Sarah closed her eyes, calculated, spoke. Elevation, 325 moa ep, windage, 42 moa right. Time of flight, 16 seconds. Torres checked his terminal. Then again, then looked at her like she'd spoken prophecy. Exactly correct. How the hell did you? Practice, Master Sergeant. Rodriguez stared at her. Thompson fell silent. Respect was growing, but quietly, cautiously. Sarah didn't need it. She wasn't here for respect. She was here for redemption. The final challenge was legendary. 5 shots, 5 targets, each one harder than the last. First, 300 yards, stationary, easy. Second, 600, partially concealed with a crosswind. Third, 900, moving. Fourth, 1,200, steep angle. And fifth, 1,500 yards, partial obscurity, unforgiving wind. In the school's 15-year history, only 12 Marines had ever hit all 5. Sarah would be the 13th. One by one, the others failed. Rodriguez got 4, Jackson 3. Thompson missed the third and walked off in shame. Then came her name, Chun. Blake called, "You're up." The others leaned in. This wasn't just another turn. This was a moment. Sarah approached the firing line, the M40A5 snug against her shoulder. The wind tugged at her uniform. She lay down, breathed. First shot, bullseye. Second, read the wind. Adjusted. Hit. Third, moving target. Clean intercept. Fourth, calculated the angle. Breathed. Fired. Perfect. Now the fifth, the impossible, the ghost shot, 1,500 yards. Sarah focused. The others held their breath. She remembered her grandfather's voice. "The bullet wants to fly, little ghost. You must simply show it where to go." She fired. 3 seconds later, the ping echoed across the range. "Target 5, the pit called. "Dead center, confirmed. Repeat." Dead center hit. Silence. Then Blake spoke. "Where did you learn to shoot like that?" She didn't flinch. "My grandfather was a Marine sniper in Korea. Kim Chun. They called him Ghost Walker." Blake's face changed, like he'd seen a ghost. Like he knew exactly what that name meant. Later that night, Sarah sat alone outside the barracks. The Georgia air was still, heavy, stars overhead, sharp as pinpoints. Rodriguez approached. Quiet. He stood beside her for a long moment before speaking. "You know what they're saying, right?" he asked. "That I'm not supposed to be here? That you should have been here a long time ago." She looked up at him. No smile, no pride, just truth. "My brother died because someone couldn't make a shot. That's what brought me here." Rodriguez nodded slowly. "And that's not what'll keep you here. You know that, right?" She said nothing, but she understood. The orders came the next morning. 6 months later, she was on a C-130 transport plane over Afghanistan, 2nd Marine Expeditionary Unit, her first combat deployment. The men around her, battle-hardened, dust-coated still, glanced her way like they weren't sure if she was real. But they'd heard about Quantico. They knew the story. They just didn't know how true it was. Staff Sergeant Martinez, her squad leader, leaned toward her over the engine noise. "Chun, you good?" She nodded. Her spotter, Lance Corporal Davis, sat beside her. He hadn't wanted to work with her at first, had even requested reassignment. That ended the day she hit targets he couldn't even find. He trusted her now. They all did. The mission. Brief was simple on paper. Extract a downed pilot. Enemy territory, hostile presence. But there was a detail buried in the report that changed everything. A sniper. Not just any sniper. The ghost of Helmand, 17 coalition kills. Vanished before air support could reach him. Rumored to be Soviet-trained, possibly Chechen. Sarah didn't flinch. But something inside her stirred. This wasn't about tactics anymore. This was personal. The insertion was clean. But the terrain was a nightmare rocky, open, unforgiving. The kind of place snipers thrived in. The kind of place her brother had died in. She and Davis took position on the ridge. High ground, overwatch. The pilot's compound was visible. Surrounded by open ground, perfect kill zone. Dozen enemy positions, Davis whispered. But I don't see the sniper. Sarah scanned. Slowly, carefully. A glint. A shadow that didn't match. Something was wrong in the depth of the rubble's darkness. "There," she said. 11 o'clock, 800 meters. Top of the compound wall. "I don't see anything." "Look for the wrong shadow." He adjusted. sucked in breath. Holy, how did you see that? Martinez's voice came through. The comms, Overwatch were beginning approach. They moved 50 meters in. The first shot rang out. The bullet struck inches from Martinez's foot. Sniper. Someone yelled. Overwatch, locate. Sarah already had. Third window, compound. Second floor, range. 847 meters. Davis spotted. Confirmed. I see him. He's moving. Sarah adjusted, breathed. The numbers came like music, whine, temp. Elevation. She fired. Target silent. Nice shot, Davis said. But she didn't respond. Something was off. Too easy. Then she saw it. A rubble pile that hadn't been there in the satellite images. A glint, a ripple, a breath. Secondary sniper, she said. East rubble, 600 meters. The shot came before she finished. It hit where Martinez had just been standing. This one was better, faster, smarter. Sarah repositioned, but the angle was wrong. I can't see him clearly from here. What do you want to do? She looked down at the Marines pinned behind cover. The pilot still waiting for rescue. The moment stretched, and then the voice returned. Sometimes, little ghost, you must become what they fear. I'm moving. Are you crazy? He'll see you. Not if I move like a ghost. And then she vanished. Where had she gone? Davis blinked. She was just there next to him on the ridge. 1 second, speaking quietly, rifle in hand. The next, nothing, as if she'd dissolved into the rocks and dust. He scanned left, right, nothing. But Sarah Chun was still there, moving, breathing, becoming. She flowed through the broken terrain like vapor, using the wind as her shield and the rocks as her allies. Every shift of her body matched a gust, every footstep timed to cover sound. Her grandfather had taught her this not in a classroom, but in the cold forests of Oregon, where predators moved in silence and prey never saw the final breath coming. Her new position gave her a clean angle. She found him finally, the real sniper, not the decoy she dropped earlier. This one had patience, experience. He lay tucked beneath rubble, covered in a Soviet-era ghillie suit, his rifle steady, eyes fixed on the Marines below. He never saw her. Through her scope, he looked calm, deadly, precise. Sarah made the calculations automatically. Wind, humidity, distance. Elevation, 1,247 meters uphill, swirling wind. She could feel her heartbeat sinking with the pulse of the earth. The rifle isn't separate from you. Little ghost, her grandfather once whispered. You are the bullet. She thought of her brother, thought of Martinez, pinned below, thought of the pilot, injured and waiting for a miracle. One breath, one squeeze, one shot. The bullet cut the silence. A split second later, the enemy sniper's rifle went limp. Target eliminated. Sarah didn't cheer, didn't flinch. She simply whispered, clear. The mission ended without further resistance. The rescue team reached the compound. The pilot was extracted, wounded but alive. No more shots came. But something had shifted. The Marines didn't just respect her now. They believed in her on the flight back. Davis watched her check her gear again. Bend once more. Still calm, still methodical. You didn't have to go down there, he said quietly. Yes, I did. Why? She didn't answer, but Davis saw the look in her eyes. That sniper, whoever he was, had taken her brother from her. Not literally, but symbolically. And Sarah had done what she came here to do. Make sure no one else paid that price. Back at base, the report circulated faster than she expected. Spotters, commanders, a few senior officers. But then, it went higher, much higher, in a secure facility half a world away. A 4-star general closed a classified report. He'd been waiting years for something like this. He picked up a secure phone. It's her, he said. The granddaughter. The voice on the other end replied without hesitation. Is she ready? I just watched her make a shot that 12 Marines in 15 years couldn't. She made it look effortless. Then it's time, the voice said. Tell her the truth about her grandfather, about why we've been waiting 3 weeks. Later, Sarah stood at attention on a crisp October morning at Quantico. The Navy Cross gleamed on her uniform. The crowd clapped, respectfully but without full understanding. They knew what the medal meant, but not what it cost. Her parents were there, her mother dabbing tears with a tissue, her father standing stiffly, as if just now realizing why his own father had dragged Sarah into the woods every summer, teaching her wind patterns instead of fairy tales. She didn't see them. Her eyes were fixed ahead until she noticed him, a 4-star general, standing apart from the others, gray hair, sharp eyes, alone, watching. He approached when the crowd began to thin, waited until her family stepped away. Lance. Corporal Chun, he said. I'm General Harrison. We need to talk. There was no room for formality in his voice. She followed him without a word. They walked in silence past other officers, past buildings she'd never entered, until they reached a secure wing marked by black glass doors and biometric scanners. What is this place? She finally asked. A beginning, he said. Inside, the air was cold, the lighting low, the hallway lined with portraits, heroes of wars long past. Tell me about your grandfather, Harrison said, not stopping. Korean War, Marine sniper. Ghost Walker, she replied. You know that name? He told me it was a secret. I was never supposed to share it. Harrison stopped. That's because it was a secret, one even the president wasn't fully briefed on. She stared at him. Sir? He turned to face her, his expression unreadable. I was there, he said, when he earned the name. That's impossible. I'm 78, Chun. I was a 19-year-old lieutenant at the Chosen Reservoir in 1950. Your grandfather saved my entire company. Sarah couldn't breathe for a moment. He was attached to our unit as a rifleman, Harrison continued. But we knew within hours he wasn't normal. Not in the way he moved or disappeared or shot. He opened the thick steel door. What lay beyond took her breath. A hybrid of museum and war archive. Classified photographs, weapon displays, documents. Under glass, and at the center, a display case, an M1903 Springfield. Familiar, weathered. It was his, her grandfather's rifle, next to it. A photograph of him, young, serious, his eyes. Her eyes, Sarah approached with reverence, touched the glass. He made 23 confirmed kills in 18 hours during a blizzard. Harrison said quietly, created a path through 50 miles of encirclement, saved over 800 men. Sarah blinked fast. But that's not why we called him Ghostwalker. He turned to another display case. Black files, heavily redacted. Because after that mission, he disappeared for 3 days. No contact? None. We thought he was dead. But he came back with maps, intelligence, enemy communication codes. He'd infiltrated their command post. Alone. Sarah's knees weakened. She gripped the glass. Who was he, really? She asked. Not. Just a Marine. He was recruited during World War II by the OSS, the predecessor to the CIA. He ran sabotage operations, trained resistance fighters, operated undercover for years. Harrison walked slowly toward a file marked Sarah Chun. Eyes only, you were never just a random recruit, Sarah, he said. We've been watching you since you were 8. She froze. What? The day he first handed you a rifle, we flagged it. He made us promise. If you ever chose the military path, we'd give you every opportunity, but we'd never force it. The recruiter, the push into sniper school, Murphy, none of it was chance. It had all been orchestrated. Sarah turned away, her mind spinning. What do you want from me? Harrison stood by a wall map, marked with pins and notes. There are enemies who move in shadows, who don't play by the rules of war. We need someone who can match them, Outthink them, outsnipe them, disappear, like he did. You want me to become a ghost. I want you to become yourself, with full knowledge of what that means. He placed a pen on the table beside her. This is voluntary. You sign, and your life changes forever. Sarah stared down at the form, then up at the rifle in the glass case. She could almost hear her grandfather's voice again. Now you understand, little ghost. This is why I taught you to disappear. She picked up the pen, signed her name. Harrison smiled for the first time. Welcome to the program, Agent Chun. Your grandfather would be proud. What happens to someone after they disappear? For 5 years, there was no trace of Sarah Chun. No name, no public record, not even a deployment log. As far as the Marine Corps was concerned, she'd been reassigned to a classified detail. One of thousands of vague entries buried beneath redacted lines and routine silence. To the outside world, she had simply vanished, but inside the shadows, she had become something else entirely. The ghosts had returned, and Sarah had become one of them. She never spoke about her missions, not to the people who trained her, not to the commanders who gave her coordinates, not even to herself, in the quiet moments between exfil and dawn. But she remembered the faces, the places, the moments when hesitation would have meant the difference between life and death. She remembered the diplomat whose motorcade had been targeted by a sniper disguised as a street vendor in Lagos. She remembered the American intelligence officer intercepted in Bucharest, who only made it home because someone had taken a silent shot from 1,200 meters in fog thick enough to hide God. She remembered the village in northern Syria where she moved through the night like vapor, neutralizing 5 enemy leaders before the sun had even thought of rising. No one saw her, no one heard her, but they knew what she left behind. 1 bullet, 1 clean shot, 1 impossible truth. Then the letter came. She received it the same way all her orders arrived. Unmarked envelope. No return address. Delivered to a dead-drop location she'd never visited twice. It was from Quantico. Only 2 words were handwritten at the bottom: recruiting request. The Portland, Oregon Army Recruitment Office hadn't changed. Same flickering fluorescent lights, same motivational posters, same scuffed linoleum tiles. Worn from 1,000 indecisions, Master Sergeant Rodriguez still sat behind the desk, now a little grayer, a little slower, but no less professional. He was sipping black coffee when the bell above the door chimed. The girl who walked in looked young, maybe 19. Civilian clothes, nervous posture. She clutched a photograph like it meant more than breath. Rodriguez straightened. "Can I help you, miss?" I want to enlist," she said, her voice trembling. "But I have questions about combat roles." He nodded. "Nothing new. What kind of combat role are you thinking about?" She placed the photo on the desk. Her brother, dress blues, confident smile, the same kind that dared the world to touch him. "He was killed in Syria last month," she said. "He was a Marine." Rodriguez's heart sank. It sounded familiar. "I'm sorry," he said gently. "What kind of role are you considering?" She met his eyes. "I want to be a sniper." He blinked. Before he could respond, the door opened again, and the temperature in the room changed. She moved like wind carried her. Dark jeans, simple jackets, sunglasses. Despite the indoor lighting, Rodriguez stood instinctively. "Sergeant Chun," he said, surprised at the sound of her name. "I heard you might be stopping by." The girl looked between them, confused. Sarah removed her sunglasses. Her eyes told stories that no one should ever have to live through. But they also held something else. Focus? Quiet kind of certainty, Miss Martinez, Sarah said, turning to the young woman. "I couldn't help but overhear. You want to be a sniper?" Jessica Martinez nodded. "Yes, ma'am. I know it sounds crazy, but it doesn't sound crazy at all." Sarah studied her, head to toe. "Tell me about your shooting experience." Jessica hesitated. I grew up on a ranch, Montana. My dad taught me to hunt when I was little. I'm decent with a rifle. Pretty good. How? Sarah asked gently. Jessica looked down, embarrassed. I can hit prairie dogs at 400 yards. My dad says that's unusual. Sarah nodded. She'd heard this story before, but she needed one more answer. Why now? She asked. Why do you want this? Jessica's hands tightened on the photo. Her voice trembled. My brother, he used to take me shooting. Taught me windage, breath control, trigger squeeze. We were just messing around, but he always said I had something. He made me promise not to tell anyone. Sarah's breath caught, too familiar. He said some gifts aren't meant to be seen until they're needed. Jessica looked up, her eyes steadier. Now, I think they're needed now. And just like that, Sarah knew the cycle had begun again. Rodriguez quietly left the room. Sarah and Jessica sat across from one another, sunlight casting soft patterns through the blinds. 6 years ago, Sarah said, I sat in that same chair, told Sergeant Rodriguez I wanted to be a sniper. Jessica leaned forward, and you did it. I did more than that, Sarah said softly, but it wasn't easy. The training, the pressure, the isolation. It wasn't just about shooting. It was about becoming something no one sees coming. Jessica nodded. I'm ready. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Are you angry or are you cold? Jessica blinked. I don't know what that means. Anger fades? Sarah said. It's fire. Hot. Fast. Loud. But a calling? It stays quiet. It lives in your bones. It carries you when your body wants to quit. Jessica thought for a long time. When I was 12, she finally said. My brother set up a target at 300 yards. I hit it first try. He laughed. Said, it was luck. Moved it to 500. I hit that too. Then 600. Then 700. He stopped at 800. Said that was impossible. Sarah felt a chill run down her spine. What did he say after that? Jessica's voice dropped. He said, never tell anyone. Not yet. The world's not ready. Sarah stood and walked to her bag, pulled out a phone, showed her a picture. Her grandfather's rifle, the display case at the black facility. The same image Harrison had once shown her. This was mine, Sarah said. He taught me to disappear, to calculate, to move between the shadows, not just to protect people, but to become something the darkness feared. Jessica stared. Wide-eyed, are you saying? I'm saying that if you choose this path, you won't just be a Marine sniper. Sarah's voice became quieter. You'll be something more, something that's been waiting for a successor. Jessica didn't hesitate. What do I have to do? Rodriguez returned to the room as Sarah handed Jessica a plain white card. Only a phone number on it, no name, no logo. When you graduate from sniper school, she said, and you will. Call this. Jessica held it like it was sacred, Rodriguez. Watched silently. He understood now. This wasn't a normal enlistment. Are you sure about this, Sergeant Chun? He asked. Sarah turned to him. Her voice was calm, but final. I'm sure. Then she looked at Jessica one more time. I want you to remember something, she said. The path you're choosing isn't about glory. It's not about revenge. It's not even about justice. Jessica listened, eyes wide. It's about standing between the light and the dark, when no one else can, when no one else will. Jessica nodded. I understand. Sarah gave the faintest smile. No, she said, not yet. What do you say to someone who reminds you of yourself before the scars? Sarah didn't answer that question aloud. She just watched as Jessica Martinez signed her enlistment papers with hands that trembled slightly, but didn't hesitate. History, it seemed, had a strange way of repeating itself. Only this time, Sarah wouldn't vanish after the signature. This time, she'd be watching. The weeks passed, then months. Sarah kept her distance. Mostly. Jessica didn't need a shadow watching her every step. She needed to walk her own fire, earn her place, face the same doubts, humiliation, and whispered judgments Sarah had once swallowed without reply. And she did. Basic training was brutal. Sniper school even worse, but word began to spread. About the girl from Montana who didn't miss. About the candidate who calculated ballistic trajectories in her head, faster than instructors could type them in. About the trainee who hit the 1,200-yard shot in shifting wind without blinking. They started calling her Little Ghost, half mocking, half mythologizing. Sarah didn't correct them. She knew that names like that weren't just given, they were inherited. 6 months after her graduation from sniper school, Jessica made the call. She didn't say anything dramatic. Just, "It's done. I'm ready." Sarah answered with only 2 words. "Come along." Compound she brought Jessica to didn't appear on maps. No signs, no gates. Just a long, empty road through forest and silence until it ended at a steel door buried in the ground. Sarah waited there, arms folded. Jessica stepped out of the black SUV, breathing hard not from fear, but from the weight of what she knew was coming. "Is this it?" she asked. Sarah nodded. "No turning back. I never turned around in the first place." The door opened with a hiss. Darkness waited below. What Jessica saw beneath that compound would stay with her forever. The walls lined with records, files, marked with names no one outside the room would ever be allowed to speak. Old weapons behind glass, mission photos with faces blurred and locations erased. And in the center, the case, same rifle, same photo, same man. Her eyes went wide. "Is that?" Sarah nodded. "My grandfather." Jessica stepped forward. Her fingers brushed the edge of the glass. "He looks like you," she whispered. "No," Sarah said quietly. "He looked like us." They sat in a small room, quiet and dim. Jessica finally asked the question that had been circling her mind for months. "Why me?" Sarah didn't smile. She didn't need to, because you didn't choose this for revenge. You chose it for precision, for presence. Because when others looked away, you looked through the scope. Jessica swallowed. "I just want to make sure. No one dies because someone else blinked." "That's the right reason," Sarah said softly. "But the job is more than that." Jessica leaned forward. "Then tell me what it is." Sarah tapped the folder in front of her. It was marked with a Cody name, Black Talon Mark. "I didn't just become a sniper," she said. "I became something else. Something the world wasn't ready to admit existed. A deterrent, a ghost, a legacy." She opened the folder inside. Records of Sarah's missions, redacted reports, details of operations Jessica had heard rumors about during training, but never believed were real. "You were being watched," Sarah added, "from the moment you picked up that rifle. Just like I was. Just like my grandfather was. They don't just find shooters, they find something else." Jessica's voice was a whisper. "What else?" Sarah looked at her, not with authority, not with mystery, but with recognition. "They find balance between the rules and the real, between what we say we stand for and what we have to become when no one else will stand." She closed the folder. Black Talon is a protocol, a continuation of a lineage that began when my grandfather disappeared behind enemy lines in Korea and returned with the intelligence that saved a battalion. Jessica stared at the words on the folder. Black ink, heavy weight. "And what happens now?" Sarah stood, handed her a pen. "Now, you sign, and you stop asking for permission to do what you were born to do." Jessica signed. The room didn't explode. There were no grand speeches, just a shift in the air. Like gravity had tilted slightly, like the world had acknowledged her in a way it never had before. Sarah handed her a patch, black, no name, just a silhouette of a bullet, wrapped in a wisp of smoke. "Welcome," Sarah said. To the program, Jessica looked down at the patch, then up at her mentor. "Is there a name for people like us?" Sarah hesitated, then nodded once. "Ghosts." That night, Sarah stood alone in the weapons vault, staring at her grandfather's rifle. She didn't need to say anything, but if he were there, if he could hear her, she would have said this. I kept the promise, I disappeared, I became the thing they feared, and now. So will she? Outside, Jessica was already being briefed. A mission, a location, coordinates that no one outside that room would ever hear again. Sarah watched her from a distance, not as a commander, not even as a mentor, but as a guardian, the first of many, because the cycle had returned, and this time, the darkness wouldn't see them coming. How do you train someone for a war no one admits exists? You don't. You just throw them into it and watch who comes back. Her name wouldn't appear in any roster. Her unit didn't have a patch or a base or even a name. And yet, within weeks, the operatives on the ground had a new term whispered between fire bases, safe houses, and late-night satellite calls: the second ghost. Jessica Martinez had arrived. The mission wasn't complicated. That's what made it dangerous. One VIP. American intelligence asset. Last seen in the mountains near the northern border of Tajikistan. Captured by a rogue paramilitary group with no flag, no name, and no rules. Drone surveillance couldn't penetrate the fog over the mountains. Local allies couldn't reach the location. Air support couldn't fly low enough without getting lit up by heat seekers, which meant only one option remained. Someone on the ground, someone who didn't exist. Jessica hiked through the peaks alone. 3 days, no comms, no backup. Just a satellite ping once every 12 hours. She moved the way Sarah had taught her, like mist crawling across stone. Quiet, invisible, watching. The compound was nestled in a canyon with only 2 viable vantage points, one already mined, the other requiring a 1,200-foot elevation gain and a straight drop over open terrain. She took the impossible one, because that's where the shot would be. She set up her position just before dawn. The air was thin, biting. Her breath threatened to fog her scope. So she learned to breathe through the corner of her mouth. She saw the VIP bruised, barely walking, dragged from one shack to another. 2 guards, one near, one trailing. Range, 847 meters wind. Unpredictable. Slope, -12 degrees. But it wasn't just the shot that tested her. It was the moment after. She radioed it in. Eyes on target, window for extraction. 3 minutes, hostiles armed, VIP mobile. The response came in a voice she hadn't heard in weeks. Sarah, do you have the shot? Jessica looked again. The lead guard had armor. The trailing one didn't. A clean headshot might drop him fast enough, but the lead could still fire. I have a shot. Silence. Then Sarah's voice, quiet, trusting. Then you have the shot. Jessica didn't hesitate. Her fingers squeezed. 2 shots, one after another, like breath and heartbeat. The trailing guard dropped immediately. The lead turned, startled. Weapon halfway raised. Before he collapsed, both dead, the VIP froze in place, looking around like he'd heard thunder and didn't know which cloud it came from. Jessica radioed. Again, window open, now. Extraction team moved in fast. Helicopter blades cutting the mountain air within 90 seconds. The mission was over in 3 minutes. She didn't go back to base. Operatives like her rarely did. Instead, her transport dropped her in a secure bunker somewhere in Eastern Europe. There, she sat across from someone she hadn't seen since the beginning, General Harrison. You've been busy, he said. Jessica gave a tired half-smile. You keep sending me. He studied her for a long moment. You've made 5 confirmed neutralizations in 7 months. Saved 2 high-value assets. Logged 0 friendly fire. 0 civilian casualties. She just nodded. That wasn't the part she remembered. Harrison slid a file toward her. Time to step forward. Jessica frowned. Forward into what? He didn't blink. Black Talon Command. Sarah was waiting for her in the corridor. Jessica stopped walking. You knew about this? She asked. Sarah nodded. They never offered it to me. I wasn't ready. Jessica's voice was quiet. Am I? Sarah didn't answer immediately then. Let me ask you something. Are you afraid of what this job is turning you into? Jessica's silence was louder than words. Good. Sarah said, You should be. That's how you know you're not lost yet. They walked together into the next room. Inside, 6 chairs, 1 long table, a map of the world on the screen, and a list of names. Beneath it, only 3 were legible. The rest were blacked out. Global insurgent activity has changed, a voice said from the end of the room. These aren't just local cells anymore. They're networked, funded, adapting faster than conventional forces can respond. Sarah spoke next. And we're not here to chase them. Jessica listened carefully. We're here to stay ahead of them. Sarah continued. To end the game before it starts. Jessica looked at the map, regions blinking, conflict zones flashing. This is the Black Talon program, Harrison said. 6 operatives, no names, no pasts, only one rule. Jessica looked at him. Be the last line? No, Sarah said. Be the line they never see coming. That night, Jessica didn't sleep. Not because she was afraid, but because she could feel the weight of history pressing on her shoulders. Not medals, not glory, legacy. She remembered. Her brother's voice again. That last summer on the ranch, the target at 800 yards. And his words. Someday you're going to make someone drop their rifle just by being there. He was right, and he never even lived to see it. But she had, and now. She was it. At 0300 hours, she received her next assignment. Just coordinates. No explanation. Sarah met her at the airstrip. Didn't say much. Just handed her something small. A folded cloth inside. A patch. The same one she'd received once before, only. Now, it bore a new mark. Her initials, embroidered in red. JM. Custom now. Sarah said, You're not just a student anymore. Jessica ran her fingers over the patch. Something tightened in her throat. Then she straightened her back, climbed into the unmarked jet, and disappeared into the night. Just like Sarah had once done. Just like the ghost walker before her. Why did Sarah stop carrying a rifle? It wasn't because she couldn't still make the shot. She could better than ever. Her hands still steady. Her mind still sharper than most satellites. But something inside her had changed. Because sometimes, leading meant not pulling the trigger. Sometimes, it meant raising the next one who could. She spent most of her time now in shadows behind shadows, advising, orchestrating, whispering to the ghosts who moved without sound or recognition. Black Talon had grown. 6 agents, all active, each one chosen not for speed or strength or even accuracy, but for silence, for restraint, for moral gravity under unbearable pressure. Jessica Martinez had become one of the most reliable field assets in the program's history. Surgical, discerning, ghost-like, and she wasn't alone. Others had followed quietly, all trained, all broken and rebuilt, all chosen. Sarah watched over them the way her grandfather once had watched over her. Without praise, without fanfare, only presence, a constant reminder. You are not alone in the dark, even when you feel like it. The mission that changed everything came without. Warning, it wasn't the target that made it different. It was the fact that the target was one of theirs, Agent Holloway, Black Talon designation Delta 3. Reported Mia in Turkey during an unsanctioned op, but new chatter suggested something worse. Turned, compromised, or worse, voluntary. Jessica was briefed. Do you want me to bring him in? She asked Sarah directly. Sarah looked at her carefully. No, she said. I want you to ask him why. The meet was tense, a remote border crossing, no surveillance, no backup. Just Jessica and a man who once shared her patch. He didn't raise a weapon, didn't run. He looked tired, worn. And when she asked him why, he didn't lie. They used her voice. He said, My sister. She died 3 years ago. But they used AI, her laugh, her cadence. It broke something. Jessica didn't respond for a long time because she understood, and when she returned to base, she told Sarah the truth. He didn't betray us, she said. He just got broken in the wrong place. Sarah nodded slowly. You did the right thing. He wants out, Jessica said. He's not dangerous. He's just done. Sarah looked out the window. The sky was beginning to lighten. Then he's done, she said. Let him go. No punishment, no debrief, just release. Because the program wasn't about vengeance, it was about balance. Months passed. One mission after another, each one deeper in the shadows, each one further from the world they once knew, until the world began whispering again. A new name, not Ghost, not Black Talon. Something stranger, stronger. Just one phrase. The woman who never missed. They didn't know her name, didn't know her origin, didn't know that once, not long ago, she had walked into a recruiter's office with a photo and a promise. One night, back in Oregon, Sarah sat quietly by her grandfather's grave. She didn't come often, didn't need to, but tonight she felt something shift, a cycle closing. She ran her fingers over the name etched into stone. Kim Chun, USMC Ghost. Walker, 1929 to 1999. She whispered softly, It's done. The girl who asked for a rifle became the one they call when no one else can take the shot. And the next one after her? She's already past me. Wind passed through the trees. A low rustle, like breath, like permission. Sarah stood, shouldered her bag, and walked back. Into the dark, not alone, just unseen. Somewhere far away on a rooftop in Eastern Europe. Jessica lay prone, rifle tucked into her shoulder, scope pressed to her eye. She exhaled, then whispered 4 words into her comm. Target locked. Ghost watching. The voice that answered her was Sarah's. Calm, steady, certain. Let her finish. Because sometimes dignity doesn't speak. It simply acts and disappears before the echo even fades.